Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 78 of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is March 1st, 2021. I'm Bill, and I am joined, as always, by my mysterious co-hosts, Amy and Jordan. Welcome, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
How are y'all doing this wonderful evening?
Good.
Better than I deserve.
I'm wearing my pretty necklace. It's my
Very nice.
steel mind here.
Well, before we get started, we want to remind our listeners that the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is not a spoiler-free podcast. That means if there's something in the Cosmere you haven't read and you're worried about hearing spoilers, you might want to go read those first, then come back and join the discussion. Because, again, big spoilers tonight.
Juicy spoilers.
Big spoilers tonight. Because tonight we are going to be talking about one of the most interesting men in the Cosmere, Thaidakar. For those of you who listen to the podcast recordings or you watch the videos on YouTube, we do want to remind you that it's possible for our listeners to interact with us live via chat as we record each episode at www.twitch.tv/InnkeepersTable. We record episodes of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies every other Monday night, starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, so please join us and take an active part in the discussion. The Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies is made possible by the support of our listeners and patrons. Our show will continue to be free, but if you want to help us out, you can head on over to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Even pledging a couple dollars per episode really helps us out as we work to improve the show. Patrons get immediate access to our Discord channel where you can talk about the show and the Cosmere with other listeners. It's a great community with a lot of great discussions. We do even expand beyond Cosmere stuff. We talk about everything from deep discussions to ridiculous memes to whatever the heck you want. It's a great community. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes, exclusive access to other bonus content, and other good stuff. So, again, this is the spoiler line. We're going to be talking about things that you cannot unhear. So We'll give you 3, 2, 1. You've been warned.
Danger zone. Sorry, I just felt like doing that. It was fun.
Save
Sure,
that.
why not get some Kenny
that.
Loggins in here?
Mark that on the tape. I don't know what, but we'll use it somewhere.
No, that'll get us muted on Twitch, so we can't. Okay, guys, so Thaidakar, the Lord of Scars.
Yep.
Who Hoyd has beaten up before. Who, just...
I think the words were actually slapped around.
Slapped around, yes. Okay. Kelsea. We're talking about Kelsea,
yes,
right?
It's definitely.
I mean, it's Kelsea.
If it's not Kelsea, Brandon is breaking his number one rule about payoffs.
Oh, he's the worst kind of troll, if that's the case.
Yeah, it's just not even... It's just like, that's stupid. No, it's definitely Kelsea. There's literally no one else in the Cosmere we know that he could have. Like, Hoyd was shocked that he could beat up Kelsea.
Right. So considering he talks about slapping him around, it's like, oh. And Brandon calls him the Lord of Scars. It's like he adds just enough. Like, you start wondering, is this Kelsea? And then he throws in slapped around. And you're like, okay, yeah. Okay, Brandon wants us to know.
So I know this isn't important. I actually think that was quite brilliant on his part to do that. Because there's a lot of people who have started the Cosmere with Way of Kings. By never mentioning his name, he makes it so people can read Mistborn and still not know his ultimate destiny.
Absolutely. I mean, because even the title, The Lord of Scars, I mean, if you've read Mistborn, it's pretty clear who he's talking about. If you haven't read Mistborn, it's a cool little name.
Yeah.
It's somebody with scars. I mean, people have scars.
Well,
and you may not even think of Kelsea even when you're reading Mistborn after the fact.
Exactly. So it's interesting. First of all, I just want to be proud of me because this was one that I was big on the theory pool. And so when he did that for me, there was a lot of interest that got paid off in theories. I'm just like, yes, I wanted this.
Oh yeah.
For me, the biggest thing was the Ghostbloods being the name. And I've been big on Ghost, Blood. I was big on this. So this isn't important for the plot, but I love that Murray says, no, he only shows up in avatar form. Kelsey is full of such crap, and I love it. This is why.
What do you mean?
So there's no way he's showing up in avatar form. Clearly, he's stuck on Scadrial. It's something that it really bothers him because it's hard for him to do anything. This is what I like to think. Kelsier has been known to co-opt other people's plans before. And the one that I think of was where he took the plan to use the boats. That was originally the plan of one of Vin's old employers, not Kamen, but the one he was working with. And he co-opted, like, she brought it up, so he co-opted that plan. I like to think as he's become more Cosmere aware and involved, I like to think that he maybe has heard like some of the stuff about what's going on with autonomy. And so he's heard this term avatar thrown around, and he's like, okay, I'm going to bring up that type of thing. There was a word of Brandon that was pretty hilarious that came from the he did an interview with Shard's cast. And they were asking him about this very thing. And Feather asked the question, I have to ask about using the word avatar for Thaidakar sending avatars. Does Kelsier actually have anything resembling a real avatar? Or is he just using the word and lying through his teeth? Brandon. Oh yeah, he's mostly lying through his teeth. Basically, this is not canon because I might come up with a better idea, but in my head, I have him with a large cloak with a Sion on top, indicating his face. And so I want that to be the concept because then it's very Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the Sion behind the cloak.
Isn't that basically what cryptics look like?
Kind of, yeah.
You know, a coat with a symbol for a face.
Yeah, but the Sions can take the face of whoever's talking on the other end, so.
Yeah, it's true. Or I always thought it was like just an image, like a screen more than anything, but.
Well, they talked about
a
it
hologram.
A bit. Yeah, it seems like a hologram.
Okay.
I imagine
it's been a
Star
while
Wars.
since I read Elantris.
I imagine Star Wars. When it'd been a while for me as well. Shallan, when she ends the transmission with Mraize, it talks about his face disappearing or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Because it's been a while.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's just more an aside that Kelsier is definitely trying to put on the image that he can go off world. He can throw his influence around when he can't.
Oh yeah.
The other quote from this word of Brandon, as of Alloy era, is he's still unable to get off Scadrial. Era 3 will definitely involve some Kelsier stuff. Let's just say he's perturbed.
Well, the thing is, we've been told that Era 3 is essentially going to be a spy thriller where they're chasing down a rogue Mistborn. Well, right now, there's only one actual Mistborn that we know of that's alive at that point.
So now here's
in any form.
So here's an excellent thing. We've been wondering what is up with Kelsier, because at the end of Bands of Mourning, we see a vision through his eye, and he does the whole survive thing. So we know he has a single spike. The odds are Kelsier is probably a Mistwraith. Why
do you say the odds are?
Because we don't know for 100%. But so here's a couple words of Brandon, basically. Okay, that's the wrong one. Two of them in particular. So this is what I think is the best chance. Someone at his book signing, I want to say it was in Berlin. Yeah, Berlin. Someone asked him, would a single spike be sufficient to staple a cognitive shadow to a Mistwraith? And Brandon said, yeah, that could happen. And he's like, did that happen in the past? That's a Raffo, I'm afraid. Who are you thinking about? His response, Kelsier, of course. Well, he is somehow in the physical realm, and he does look like himself, doesn't he? And then the other one, and this is from Brandon's Hero of Ages annotations. This is him commenting on Kelsier's bones. I don't know if I mentioned it previously in the annotations, but I originally had Tensoon leave Kelsier's bones in Luthadel, burying them again following his appearance to Wellen and the other guard. My alpha readers, however, were very disappointed in this. They saw Kelsier's bones as very important, and they wanted to see more from them. So I added a scene where the people in the warehouse saw Tensoon, and he gave them advice. Then I had him bring the bones with him. However, I wasn't sure what to do with them. I had already written the book at this point and was just revising. I realized there wouldn't be another chance to make use of the bones, but I figured the readers were right and Tensoon should bring them just in case. Where the bones are at the end of the book is something of a mystery. They made it back to the Khandra homeland. I'll say that. However, what happened to them? Well, you will have to see. And so I think
means we will see.
Yeah, so
I think it's a very good chance.
Yeah, it makes the most sense of how Kelsier can show up looking like himself, because every other form of hemalurgy that we see wouldn't really work with that. The other interesting question is, how is Kelsier still a Mistborn?
It's related to his spiritual web, right?
Exactly.
Right.
So allomancy's a bit different from a lot of the other magics, where it is tied to your spiritual DNA. It has nothing to do with your body, because they don't it's not the burning of the metals that gives them the power. The metal is a key that opens up the door to preservation's power. And so, in theory, if a cognitive shadow keeps the spiritual DNA and you somehow staple that to a Mistwraith, we've seen that Mistwraiths can use ferrochemical and allomantic abilities with the right spikes.
Right.
So there's just a question of exactly how that works, and that's probably Era 3 stuff, but it was something that I thought was kind of interesting to start. Just, how is Kelsier even here? And so I delved in these things. But then the question is, we've seen the Ghostbloods do a crap load of stuff. Not all of it entirely savory.
Right.
So, Kelsier, what is he like? What's the goal of the Ghostbloods? Like, we know they want power. That Mraize has a whole speech about that, right? He tells Shallan that they're sort of looking to get a monopoly on the Cosmere economy.
Right.
Through Stormlight. Where was that? He says something about, let's see. This power is something we called investiture. Investiture manifests in many forms, tied to many places and many different gods. It is bound to a specific land, making it difficult to transport. It resists. Try to carry this too far, and you'll find it increasingly difficult to move, as it became increasingly heavy. The same limitation restrains people who are themselves heavily invested. Radiance, Spren, anyone connected to Roshar is bound by these laws and cannot travel further than Ashen or Braze. You are imprisoned here, Radiant. Radiant responds, a prison as large as 3 planets. Forgive me if I feel confined. Then later on, this gemstone cannot go where it is needed. A more perfect gemstone could contain the light long enough to go off-world, but there is still the connection problem. This little flaw has caused us untold trouble, and the one who unlocks the secret would have untold power. Literal power, Radiant. The power to change worlds. So you want to unravel the secret, Radiant said. I already have, Mraize said, making a fist, though putting the plan into motion will be difficult. I have a job for you. So I have no clue how, but they clearly did it with a Sion.
Yeah, because they have one off-world.
Did what with a Sion? Sorry.
They got it. They got Sion connected to one world, into another world.
Yes.
So
I suspect aluminum has to do with it.
It's probably got something with aluminum,
box, yeah.
but I doubt it's just as simple as contain it in aluminum.
Right. No, there's probably something beyond that.
So they've solved the problem, but it's the implementation that's apparently the issue. So
Like it's difficult to do.
yeah. Moraes clearly trades in artifacts that come from multiple different worlds. I mean, they had the whole curio of curiosities or whatever it was that he had down there.
Yeah.
And we know that what's her name? Eoctil, is that her name? His Babsk?
Ayatil?
Ayatil, that's what it
Ayatil?
is. Yeah. She's clearly from off-world. She's clearly Southern Scadrian. So they want this power. They want secrets. And if anything, based upon how Kelsier ends Secret History talking to Spook, one of their goals, I don't know if it's a goal of just Kelsier alone or if it's a greater goal of the Ghostbloods, but keep Scadrial safe. Now, what Kelsier considers safe, we got to think about what Kelsier went through with Secret History. He saw that one, he had been puppeted by Ruin,
Right.
and that it almost basically, if it weren't for, you know, his interference on his side of death and Vin's, you know, ability to do what she could do on her side, that everything would have, you know, been destroyed and Ruin would have been freed to go wherever he
Everything
wanted
would
to the
have been
Cosmere.
ruined?
Yeah. So, remembering that an eldritch, you know, horrible being almost got free of Scadrial, almost destroyed Scadrial, Kelsier would be very well justified to think we need to be more involved in these Cosmere events. But Kelsier is also, he's not a hero, he's an anti-hero. And Kelsier is not above dirty tricks in order to do what he thinks is the right thing. And we've already seen him collapse one world's economy for the sake of accomplishing a goal. I mean, he destroyed the pits of Hassan for a reason.
Yeah.
So,
You know, no, that's a good thought. I just had a thought myself.
okay.
We know that Kelsier and Chris have talked.
Yeah.
Have they talked since that first conversation?
That's an excellent question, isn't it?
I don't think we know. It's not
Because-
happened on screen at least.
I'm interested to find out. I mean, at this point, Kelsier's probably very Cosmere aware just because, you know, he's got an organization like the Ghostbloods and so. But I wonder how aware he is of Adonalsium and that aspect of the Cosmere. You know, not just there are multiple worlds, there are multiple types of investiture magic systems, but more along the lines of Hoyd level Cosmere aware or Chris level Cosmere aware.
Let me answer your question with another question. In Sazed's first letter to Hoyd, it was in Oathbringer, right? Or was it in Words of Radiance?
I think it was in Words of Rage.
Anyway, he sends a letter, and even Hoyd seems a bit unfamiliar with a lot of, or not Hoyd, Sazed
Sazed?
seems unaware of a lot of this stuff, and he holds two of those shards.
Right.
So
That said, he hasn't interacted with any of them, though.
Yeah, exactly.
That's more what I'm talking about.
Yeah. And so, but that's my point is, even with that as a power base, there's a lot of holes in what Sazed knows. And so I'm willing to bet Kelsier probably does know a lot of things, but he probably also has some pretty big holes as well.
The difference being, though, that, you know, if Kelsier's talking to, say, Chris and the people in Silverlight, you know, he may know more. It's possible to know more than Sazed just because Sazed hasn't interacted with them. I mean, he started to, as we found out in Rhythm of War. He's reaching out to all these different shards that are just sort of popping up with, you know, whimsy and invention and of course all the ones that we know about. But he came in, you know, in the middle of the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Kelsier, so did Kelsier, but Kelsier also has a network that could fill him in on some of the gaps.
yeah.
And
you know, we
seems
have
more...
Jordan and I have talked about our roommate who would come in the middle of movies and say, "Okay, so what's going on here? What's going on there?" And you know, Kelsea has us to ask rather than just turning on a movie and saying, "I have no idea what's going on."
Mm-hmm. And he seems more tenacious than Sazed is. Not that Sazed isn't good at finding out information, but he's kind of busy running a world.
Sazed's trying to keep himself from destroying himself, or keep himself in balance.
So he's got a lot that he has to do.
So
and
actually,
Kelsea very much is about finding secrets.
So that's a good point. That's a good point, and it ties into another big question. The relationship between Kelsea and Sazed, I think, matters a lot. And here's a question. Mm-hmm. Why is it that Kelsea saves the Southern Scadrians and not Sazed, who is kind of responsible for their plight? Like, that seems weird, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I almost wonder if he fixed things and thought he was doing a better job than the Lord Ruler was, and then he realized, oh, I messed that up, but I don't want to tweak it again because I don't want to make it worse.
Or if maybe... Or Kelsea went on Sazed's request.
So this is the
that's possible.
So this is the theory I have working with what very little we have. I have a feeling that Kelsea, who was clearly experimenting with hemalurgy, with him and Spook doing whatever experiments they were doing, with the Inquisitor spikes that they had left over. Because I don't think Kelsea would start going around and experimenting the way the the Lord Ruler did.
Yeah.
And I think Kelsea maybe unraveled the secret and then said, you know, but yes, Sazed has this problem. Sazed can't quote unquote fix it because Sazed has already moved the planet, and doing more could cause more damage than harm. And I could see Kelsea, who, again, loves to weasel his way into things and meddle, because Kelsea loves to meddle, being like, hey, I could be a throwaway piece to go try and solve this problem. All I need is a spare mist wraith and my bones and a spike. And I already have the spike, or something like that. And
I mean, they'd have Marsh probably working with them, too.
Yeah, who knows? Boy, there's so many scenes I want between those three characters. But I could see Kelsea doing that. I could see Sazed doing that, and then afterwards, Kelsea being like, "All right, I'm gonna now meddle in this other stuff," and Sazed being like, "I knew you wouldn't just stop here. I knew you would. I did it anyway." But the other problem is, the other potential reason is Sazed would, like, I think it's only like 5 years later that Kelsea is in Southern Scadrial or something. It's pretty quick after the Catasandra.
Oh goodness!
Is that what Catasandra?
Yeah. Okay. There's also a chance that Sazed could fix it if Sazed were more experienced with his powers, but he has two competing shards that make it very difficult for him to do things. And it might be that he wanted, and maybe current Sazed could have fixed it, but someone else had to step up because he was, you know, trying to stay harmony and not become discord.
Yeah, he's trying to figure out what he's doing and juggle everything.
And so I think the answer to that is going to give us a lot of insight as to what it is Kelsea's actually doing. Because I think it's going to be a microcosm of the rest of Kelsea's, like, why he's doing certain things.
Right.
I mean, part of it's just also, Kelsea's a meddler.
Yeah. And I could very much see that like we've been saying, that Sazed let him go and handle littler problems, and Kelsea just added extra things to it each time, or just took little bits, you know, took percentages off the top of whatever else. Because that's...
You think Kelsea
is embezzling the Cosmere?
You think Kelsea might take a mile when given an inch? Kelsea?
I think he would take several fathoms.
Oh man.
Well, so the other thing is, so this at the same time though, Mraize and Eotil have done some pretty horrible things. And so there's a couple of questions we gotta ask. One, is it still quote unquote Kelsea anymore? And also, how much control does he have over his individual Ghostbloods?
Yeah.
I think he intentionally doesn't have tight control over it.
Because it's hard to micromanage everything, especially when you can't physically step foot there.
And does Kelsier have a history of micromanaging?
No, not at all.
No.
His team.
He tells
he's
you the
not.
goal, and he says, you make it happen.
He finds people who are good at that and says, no, you make it happen. This is our goal. Just go.
Yeah. So there's definitely.
That's why I hired a specialist, because you know how to do this.
Yeah, I mean, he loves the decentralized command structure. I mean, we saw him in some of my favorite scenes were their idea meetings in the Final Empire, where he has everyone bringing up problems and trying to bring solutions, and he is the leader, and he's using his influence to.
But he's also trying to create something that will last after he's gone.
Yeah.
You know, and so like he puts into play, like that's one of the major discussions throughout the Well of Ascension, is the way that he had actually set it up and put each of his quote lieutenants in command in different ways, so that even when he's gone, they can continue this work.
Yeah. There's still the structure in place, even if he's not there.
So if his team though was still on a Cosmere scale relatively small, right? Like in the Final Empire, he at max had 20,000 people he was in charge of when you include the army. But in reality, he only really interacted with the main crew and some of their lieutenants. Otherwise, he was mostly just a figurehead. Now let's blow up that structure to the size of the Cosmere. I don't think he's as much in control of the Ghostbloods as even he maybe thinks.
Yeah. Because, I mean, as long as... Well, if we go with that, I could see it being that he says, I want you to solve problem X. And they say, okay. And they just go with that. And as long as they are working towards solving problem X, he probably doesn't care or need the details for exactly how they're going through it.
Yeah. I think he's very much in control. I just think it's intentionally loosely in control.
So...
Like, it's the concept... It's like he's the CEO of a company, and he has all these different departments, and he doesn't tell them how to run each department. He just says, this is what needs to happen. Make it happen.
It's funny you should bring that up.
And he's also willing... Like, we know that he's willing to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
So it is nice that you bring that up, because I have a word of Brandon for you.
I'm familiar with the word of Brandon.
So this is also from the same interview he had with Shard's cast. They said him. It was Feather again, and Feather was expressing the fact that they love Moraes as a villain, but now that Kelsier's in charge, it bothers them because Kelsier's ruining this thing, and Kelsier's also ruining himself. Brandon's response was, it's okay, Moraes does not have to do what he's told, and Eotil, sorry, skipping over some stuff, and Eotil is, and then he pauses, don't consider the people in the Ghostbloods flunkies. That's not a very Ghostbloodish philosophy. And it's like, no, they're not allowed to backstab each other. They need very strong, specific rules. If you have an organization of people who are drawn to the way Kelsier works, you need some really strong rules. When he is just with his crew, his force of personality, and the people he individually picks, you're not going to have a problem. I always imagine you can relate it to Tor books. They're all assassins. When Tor really functioned well back in the 90s, it's because Tom Doherty could keep a close eye on everything, and he liked his editors being a little bit in competition with each other, and he structured his organization so that if you picked an author who did well, you got bonuses based on how well the authors did, which is just a way of working out that he could really lead to an unhealthy office environment if you think about it. Skipping forward again, it's the same thing with Kelsier. In an immediate organization of Kelsiers, you're going to find a well-bonded crew of people handpicked who are going to work together as a team, and you aren't going to have to worry too much about backstabbing. Less than average for the type of organization that they are. But if his structure is outside his direct manipulation, the type of people who would be attracted to the organization he makes and then someone finishes a sentence for him, are not going to be nice. Brandon, you're gonna have some problems. Moraes would not say that he's not nice. Moraes would just say that his niceness is an analogous threshold that does not intersect with the threshold of competence and capability of things he's trying to achieve. Those things don't need to overlap in his life. He'd say he's a very nice person. He was also very nice to Shallan by his definition. He was very nice to Lift by his definition of things. Think of all the things he could have done with Lift. And what did he do? He gave her as a present to an ancient being who ruled the tower who could properly take care of one such as Lift.
I could have done all these horrible things instead, but I just did this little bit. So wasn't I so nice?
Just remember the red versus blue quote. Okay, not doing something mean isn't the same as doing something nice. But so Brandon himself is pointing out Kelsier may have some bad branch managers. The Roshar branch has some issues. If this is still our Kelsier. There's still a lot of questions on that regard.
Yeah. Because time has passed, so he may have been changed. By
well, particularly when you look at Vasher's statement or Zael's statement to Kelsier, where he's saying, as time passes, the more Spren-like we become.
You mean Kaladin?
To Kaladin, yeah.
It's okay. Too many Ks.
I do it all the time too.
Sorry, I keep hearing the word Kelsier. And when he's talking to Kaladin, he says, as time passes, the more Spren-like we become. We're not actually the people we were. We're chunks of investiture that were imprinted on by this. Now
we're a copy, kind of.
Yeah. Well, Kelsier has a lot of these things working, for and against him. One, he's a cognitive shadow. Stapled to not his original body, that makes him somewhat like the Heralds, which we already seen how well they're doing. Now, they have a mountain of time, and Kelsier has, 300 years compared to their tens of thousands? On top of it, they have been tortured every single time they go back, whereas Kelsier has not been tortured. Kelsier had a rough time in Secret History, but it was a
much shorter period.
Yeah.
Right. And that wasn't torture. That was just a rough time.
Yeah, it was just a rough time. No, frankly, probably the worst time for Kelsier mentally was the year he spent locked in the Well of Ascension with no people. He's an extrovert.
Yeah.
That's torture.
I'd say the worst time for Kelsier mentally was when Ruin sort of
was
slapped him around.
Yeah, when he was holding preservation.
I don't know. Rereading his Secret History.
When Ruin first appeared to him.
Oh,
and
that's right.
He's just like, little child, you have no idea what you
have no idea what I can do.
You see, but after I reread Secret History before this because I always need an excuse to read Secret History. It's my favorite thing he's written. Oh, look, it's Kelsier. Anyway, I actually think the year was harder. Kelsier was going stark raving mad, being alone. Isolation is bad for him. He needs people. And it made him confront a truth that he hadn't confronted. And the truth he confronted was he never really had been sane ever since he left the pits. That he confronts himself.
You don't want to admit to yourself.
So this is where he's off a little worse than the Heralds. He didn't start sane. Whereas,
but I still feel like they've probably moved further than him because they've had so much more time.
I definitely agree, but it is something to consider that Kelsier himself doesn't list himself as a sane person.
Yeah.
Then also, like the Heralds, he's also the central figure of now 2 religions. He's got the Southern Scadrians and the Survivorists.
Right.
And then on top of that, he was... this is also talking about, is he the same Kelsier anymore? He has now been touched by Preservation's power at least 3 times in 3 meaningful ways. The first time being when he was in the pits of Hathsin. He was at his breaking points, and then he heard a voice of Preservation commanding him to survive. Now, personally, we have the question of why did Kelsier take so long to snap late in life? I think that moment was when he snapped. I think it was preservation sort of touching him when he was at his lowest. And that's when his soul finally cracked. But that's not guaranteed or anything. That's just sort of a pet theory of mine.
Sorry, which moment?
When preservation told him to survive in the pits.
Okay.
But it is one of the things that Brandon says is those who snap the hardest tend to be more powerful. And Kelsier was at his absolute bottom because he thought his wife had betrayed him, and
everything's horrible.
Yeah.
Well, the other question about is it really Kelsier anymore is, I mean, in some ways it's not, because he's a cognitive shadow. Like, he's a perfect copy of Kelsier through investiture, but it's not really Kelsier.
He's the idea of a man, I think was the quote of Ruin, I want to say.
I mean, it's kind of like the old TV show Dollhouse.
Oh, yeah, they've been wiped.
Where you have a person whose brain is imprinted with the personality of someone else. They're not that person. They're just a perfect copy of them.
Now here's the question. If you have all the memories, if you have all the abilities, and now with him, you have the exact same body as before, basically, minus one spike through your eye, does it matter that it's not exactly the same person?
For everyone else, perhaps not. For that individual, perhaps. It's a really interesting concept that I've hurt my brain thinking about for several times.
Yeah, I think for the purposes of us as viewers, I don't think it actually matters that much. And strangely, I don't think it matters to Kelsier. That doesn't sound to me like the type of existential quandary Kelsier would get into. Because if there's anything Kelsier feels like he feels like he knows himself.
Well, and the other thing is, if it's a perfect copy of him, to the perfect copy,
you're gonna be
that's
fine.
all he knows. That's all he remembers. That's who he is.
It's a fascinating question.
Oh, it makes my brain hurt thinking about it.
So, but then also we have to include the fact that he was preservation did whatever he did to fuse him to the well of ascension itself, which was an experience. And again,
he said, "Be preserved."
He was stuck in a prison, basically by himself for almost a full year, minus seeing a horrible thing in a pit, preservation going crazy, sometimes showing up, and getting slapped around by one Cosmere entity at some point. Other than that, he basically had jack squat for a full year, which just is not
him and
healthy.
His thoughts.
And that they aren't the best thoughts to be around.
No.
And then, of course, he became preservation. Like, I know he didn't have the powers of preservation for that long. Maybe a couple weeks, I want to say. I forget the timeline of at that point.
It was very, very short.
Yeah, it was a couple
I didn't
weeks.
even think it was a week. Was it?
I don't think it was even that long.
I thought it was like a couple hours, maybe.
I remember. No, it's definitely longer than that. It takes a couple days for a lot of things to take place. The other thing is I forgot there's actually a number of time skips in that book. Because just there's a lot of hurry up and waiting for a lot of the book where they travel somewhere, and the way too, it's not like anything interesting happened. It's just like, well, the world's ending.
So let's just move on.
And so, but at the same time, he had a short period of time. It's still an infinite power, basically. And even an infinity for a small period amount of time can still move something.
Yeah.
And Kelsier is but one. He's not even a full person. He was at that point just an idea of a person. And so I wouldn't be shocked if there was some movement due to preservation. I mean, Kelsier's always had this weird mix of ruin and preservation in him. He truly is the discord that I think the prophecy's worried about, because in some ways it was completely of Ruin. I mean, look, Ruin manipulated him and Gemmel like puppets to get him to kill the Lord Ruler, to put Vin in a spot where she could be manipulated. Like he got played, and that's part of his, the reason he's trying to take down Ruin is he does take that personally. Now, I think that's a small part of what he's trying to do. He's more worried about his world and his friends, surviving this. But at the same time, it does bother him. At the same time, though, for someone who is so of Ruin, who should so be at peace with the ending of things, Kelsier can't leave this side of life. He can't go into the beyond. I like to compare it to the way Eshonai passed away, where she got to see it all, and then she just went into the beyond because it was another hill for her to go beyond. Kelsier says there's always another secret, but Kelsier has this problem. Kelsier knows that if he crosses over that hill, he can't find out the secrets over here.
Yeah, Kelsier's a completionist.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yes, that's the perfect metaphor.
My husband and I were actually talking about that today, about being completionists in video games. That's funny.
Yep. Yeah, and so Kelsier's not ready to cross to that until he's discovered all. Until he's
100% across
PvP
the board.
achievements are still there. He hasn't discovered all the zones. It's it's a problem.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, he's trying to, get all the achievements in World of Warcraft, and that's just insanity.
No, I find it fitting that Kelsier is on two sides of, he has that coin, and his face is on two sides of a coin, because that's very Kelsier. He has this dual nature that makes him such an intriguing character, that makes him both villain and hero at the same time, and I love him for it.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. This is a very random aside, but speaking of coins and clinking, did you guys remember Mraize's meeting with Raboniel?
Okay. Yeah.
No. Okay.
I remember he met with her.
Okay. So we got it from Venli's perspective, and the entire time Venli's like, who is this human who's just walking up to a fused and being all cool about things?
Chatty.
Yeah. And he gives this whole speech here. All right. Where was that? Okay. Raboniel says, "The only thing I find remarkable," Raboniel said to Derision, "is how audacious you are for a human. Do you not understand how easily I could have you beaten or killed?" Mraize responds, "That would be a waste to throw away a useful opportunity. And you are not one who throws away something useful, are you, Ancient One?" "Use is relative," Raboniel replied. "I will throw away an opportunity if I'll never have time to exploit it, or if it's preventing me from something better. What is better than free riches? I have Eurytheru. What need have I of riches? Not that kind of riches," the man said with a smile. He stepped forward and respectfully handed her a large pouch. Raboniel took it, and it made a soft clink. Raboniel undid the top and stared inside. She sat there for a long moment, and when she next spoke, her voice was devoid of rhythms. "How? Where did you get this?" "I bring a gift. To encourage you to meet with my Babsk to negotiate terms. I had thought to wait until the current turmoil subsided, but my Babsk is determined we will have a deal for use of the Oath Gates, and we will pay. It is a fine gift. This is not a gift. This is the mere advance on our future payments. This is the gift," and then he brings out Lift.
Oh, I'd forgotten that.
I had forgotten it too until I was reading Mraize's Coppermine, and it mentioned this, the pouch, and I'm like, wait, what? And I can go back.
Mm-hmm.
It made a clink, so it's some kind of metal. Anything metal in this universe has something amazing potentialities.
Well, particularly since it came from Ayatil, who is a southern Scandinav.
Yes.
Oh.
So
could it be medallions?
Considering the next Mistborn book, which we've been told he had to wait to write, is called the what is it? The
Lost Metal.
Lost Metal. Mm-hmm. Could it be adium?
Who knows?
What could they do with adium, creating a
dear.
fabrial?
So this is interesting. 'Cause
What
that's
could they
clearly
do with harmonium, creating a fabrial?
that she clearly knows what it is, because, or at least has an inkling of what it is. It's interesting she speaks without rhythms. Why? Is it because something of this metal makes it, or whatever's in there messes with rhythms, or is she doing this for some purpose? Because I can't think of a time where any singer speaks without rhythms for any reason.
What could they do with duralumin, creating a fabrial?
Who
You
knows?
know that aluminum messes with it. Duralumin enhances.
Could have been the sand, but I have a feeling they already had sand. Texas.
And sand wouldn't clink.
It could
the
be glass
container with
jars.
the sand. Yeah,
I guess.
but it's
That's true.
that
The fact that we don't see it
Yeah.
just makes me think that it has to be something more interesting. There's another possibility that I had, because I was just thinking, like, okay, metal things in the Cosmere. I remember a brief scene in Oathbringer where Adolin goes to a market in Shadesmar, and he sees a chain made of some metal
That's right.
that has some insane price, and he's just like, okay, well, I don't know what that is, but
What was
whatever
that,
it is. Could it be that? Like, she's shocked that he's able to get a hold of whatever this is. So I don't know. Clearly, we don't know. I just think it's got to be something metal, and it's got to be something interesting, and I don't know. Moraes gave it as an advance. He's definitely flaunting what they've got.
It's a gun. I mean, they have them on Scadrial at this point.
Fair enough.
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so at that,
Oh,
wasn't there a short in the one of the yellow papers or whatever they're called in the in between chapters? Broadsheets. That's what it was. Wasn't there one where, like, I think it's like Naj or something who has like a gun that shoots shadows or something?
I don't remember that.
got-
I do not remember this either.
There was something. There was a weird gun. I remember this.
I remember they asked about talking utensils or
Yes, talking tools.
talking tools. Yes, but yeah, I don't remember a gun that shot shadows.
I don't know. There was something weird.
I'm not sure.
But it's just, there's all sorts of things it could be. But in this little trying to figure out what all's going on, I found that, and I'm just like, what's in the bag? What's in the bag? Sorry.
So Texas Blade is saying Nikki Savage, maybe.
That's what,
that
yes,
story.
the Nikki Savage story. That's her name.
Okay, I don't remember that bit.
I'll have to revisit that, just because it was at the very minimum
remember-
interesting.
There was lots of boasting and fun things there, so I wouldn't be surprised if we'd forgotten the gun that shoots shadows.
Okay,
Or
so
something equivalent.
there are a few people that I think Thaidakar would want to have a conversation with.
And there's so many
you know,
people I
he's-
want him to have a conversation with.
He's trying to get in touch with the Heralds and figure some stuff out about how to leave Scadrial, right?
Yeah.
We know of a cognitive shadow who has left their world, and that is Vasher. Because returned are also cognitive shadows, except that they're returned back to their own bodies. So maybe that's all it is because he's in his own body.
He can.
But
yeah.
we don't know. I know that breaths are. Brandon has said breaths are less, quote, sticky. But cognitive shadows are different than just breaths, I feel.
Well, I mean, and at the very
Yeah.
minimum, he can't get rid of his divine breath.
Right.
Yeah, he has to keep that one.
And that seems the one that would be really sticky.
Exactly. Now, that said, coming from endowment, it is literally given away.
Yeah.
But I still wonder, I still feel like Vasher would be a person of great interest to Thaidakar. And that's a
Yeah.
conversation I'd love to see.
And the reason
But
it'd be
it's-
it's great is because he's so similar to Clubs at this point. I would love to see a conversation with him putting up with Kelsey.
Yeah. We don't have any proof that he knows of him, though. But there's the equal likelihood that he does. So
Right.
that could go either way.
The thing is, Vasher goes to, great lengths to avoid being noticed.
Yes, and I mean, there's also the 17th shard looking for Vasher. So, wait, no,
17th shard is looking for Hoyd.
Are they looking for Hoyd?
Yeah, Azure's looking for Vasher.
Azure is looking for
sorry.
Vasher.
There's too many people looking for too many other people. Big book.
It's a big,
I was like,
it's a
who's
big
looking
Cosmere.
for him? It's a big Cosmere. Big place.
I doubt
Lots of
she's the
names.
only one, though.
Yeah.
It's a great big universe, and we're all really puny.
Tiny little specks about the size of Mickey Rooney.
But yeah, I feel like that would be a very interesting conversation because if Kelsier has heard about Vasher and the fact that multiple returned, have found a way to leave their world
Because
in
they
multiple
left.
cognitive-
Yeah, because they came to Roshar to figure out how to make or to get inspiration for Nightblood.
Well, they came to Roshar. They saw shard blades. They said, "Ooh, let's make that." And
Let's do that. Let's
did a really messed up job of it.
Or
and then
an amazing job of
Azure's
it.
Blade too. Yeah, and then there's Azure's Blade too. So we don't know if he
Right.
made another trip in between.
The other thing
And so-
the other thing that might be complicating Kelsier's situation that might be different from Vasher is Kelsier was preservation. Like, he's not some splinter of a god. He was for a short period of time, but was one. That might tie him more.
He's
tightly-
literally a sliver.
Yeah, and so that might tie him more to Scadrial than maybe even
Than Vasher,
Yeah,
yeah.
maybe even the Heralds. Who knows?
Perhaps.
I mean, it's not like we have a lot of examples to go off of, so it's why we gotta grasp every one that we can see.
Everything's kind of murky.
No, but
Question.
Vasher's definitely someone he wants to talk to.
Question.
Oh, yeah.
Spren aside, can Zeth leave Roshar?
I've been wondering that myself. Because that's another person I want Kelsier to have a conversation with, because both of them are cognitive shadows stapled to a body.
But
Now-
Seth has his own body.
Stapled different, but it seems like Seth isn't stapled quite as well.
No.
Yeah.
Zeth, the staple's a little crooked.
Some shoddy workmanship.
Yeah,
It's a little rush job there.
I like to think of Zeth as actually just out of focus, like the RG and the B of him is just sort of out of phase a
Oh,
little
just
bit.
off.
So he looks like an 80s television.
See, I just see it as somebody turned on mouse trails on Windows, and so he moves, and it's just a little.
Mouse trails
little
were all the
trail.
rage in Web 1.0 in 1997.
Oh my goodness.
I thought they were so cool on my Angel Fire website.
Angel Fire. Oh man.
The
That's
GeoCities.
Oh, GeoCities.
life journal.
No, so
All that,
Seth would be
anyway.
another interesting one. Obviously, if he could actually talk to, it's so. This is the other thing that has the question. We don't know if Kelsier founded the Ghostbloods, took over the Ghostbloods. I mean, we have the famous quote from Brandon. What is it like? He'd be running it within a month or a year or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
I'll look
yeah,
it up.
it's something like that. Part of me really wants him to have telling us 100% exactly the truth, just because I would love for that to have Brandon been so pleased with himself as he's telling us exactly what happened, but it seems like just a throwaway line. But we don't know if he founded the Ghostbloods or took them over. We don't know if they had some different goal and he co-opted it, or changed it, or he co-opted it. So there's a lot of questions as to when he got involved with the Ghostbloods.
Okay, here's what Brandon said on it 6 years ago. He says, the question was, if Kelsier, when Vin knew him, were to join one of the Rosharan secret societies, which one would he choose? Brandon says, he would become part of the Ghostbloods most likely, and would be in charge of them within a year.
And I want that to be literally what happened. I want it to be a year on the dot. Like,
First anniversary, boom, it's mine.
I just want I want that zinc-tongued raven to have somehow just worked his way into everyone being like, yeah, let's listen to this guy.
He's got
A
ideas.
year after that scene where Vin shows up in the cognitive realm and then goes on to the beyond. 1 year after that point, because they said when Vin knew him. So-
But he has a lot of outs there. This isn't the Kelsey or Vin really knew him. You know, that Vin really knew this. You know, there's a lot of outs, but I want it.
Right.
I want it. And this is the thing. I wanted Kelsier to be involved with the Ghostbloods. I already got it, and so I've had my cake. Now I want to eat it too.
no more cake for you.
But it's done so good for my physique.
Now that's a lie.
Oh, yeah. No, but yeah, we don't know when he got involved with them.
Right.
And then on top of, what was the other thing? I thought of something else. The other thing is, this is the type we've talked, or Brandon has talked about, had Kelsier somehow gotten the 11th medal to work or whatever, and he was able to kill the Lord Ruler. Kelsier's very fortunate he never became king of Luthadel. Kelsier would have been a horrible, horrible king. Kelsier would have become a tyrant in the vein of Quellion, in whatever city that Fadrix.
I think it was
Fadrix City. Yeah.
Yes. Well, but that's so something in that vein where he basically becomes a Robespierre style leader off with their heads, or he would have become, or running a city would have been just the death of Kelsier. He would hate it, and he just wouldn't do his job as a king, and he'd become something maybe more akin to the Emperor in the Emperor's Soul before Shai fixed him.
Yeah.
And I think he kind of realized that. You know, he was never setting himself up to be king.
Yeah.
Although he was pissed in Secret History when he found out they made a noble the leader. As much as he did, he did grow in at the end of the final Empire. It still pissed him off that they had made a noble and put him on the throne. And on top of it, someone who's basically the exact opposite of Kelsier. Kelsier is a man of action who likes to, he doesn't really deal with these high ideals. He tends to deal with, the cold reality. He puts his trust in people, not ideas. You get Elend, who puts his trust in ideas first and then people.
He also makes a lot of snap decisions while Elend dithers and wonders, is this right or is this right?
And doubts
what do
himself.
You think is right?
Doubts himself so much. And that is not a problem Kelsier ever had. Kelsier has no issues trusting himself, to his detriment, but that's the fun of it. It's fun to see Elend constantly sit there and stuck in Kelsier and the Lord Ruler's shadow. And by the end, I do think he does pick up the better traits of both men as he sits there and works on himself. Kelsier, on the other hand, I see no evidence he has ever picked up the better traits of Elend. Well, he is studying now that I think about it. I suppose that's not true. He is trying to figure things out, but he always liked figuring out secrets, so he's really cheating on that one.
Indeed.
But that's also
Just found a more interesting topic.
a bigger topic.
All right, so who is Kelsier now? Is he the big bad of the Cosmere like some people are speculating?
I don't know.
Is he
Part of me would love
the ultimate savior of the Cosmere that people are speculating?
I've said it before. I would love to see if Kelsier could literally become the embodiment of you either die the hero, live long enough to become the villain, and have him do both, because it would be the most Kelsier thing in the world to do both.
To die the hero and live long enough.
Yes. But I don't think that's what it is. Brandon loves Kelsier as a character, and I think he would like to continue to. There's a reason he's stuck around as a character. Brandon wants to write more about him, and if Kelsier's just a monster now, that's not very interesting. Kelsier's always been Shades of Grey, and I expect nothing else. Now, I can tell you what I want to happen. What I want to happen, Kelsier is poking everywhere, and there's one shard that has been poking around, we think, on Scadrial, and we think it's Trell, who we think is an avatar of autonomy. What shard would fit better for Kelsier than autonomy? I would love to see Kelsier go to war with autonomy. I don't know how. I want him to somehow take up the shard, and then I want him and Hoyd to have to work together for the rest of time as they just snipe at each other constantly, because they deserve each other, and it would be so much fun.
Oh, man. Speaking
of, Kelsier in relationships with other characters, I did find it interesting. Somebody asked what Kelsier and Kaladin would think of each other. And I thought it was really interesting because Kelsier, he said, would really, really like Kaladin. He really likes these people who are just good people, good at heart and trying to do the right thing. Kaladin would absolutely hate Kelsier, but Kelsier would be fine with that.
Yeah.
I found that answer really, really cool.
Well, I mean, think about his crews. Yeah. This is one of the people he gets compared to for good reason is Taravangian. Because both very much have a mindset of ends justify the means at times. Taravangian to an extreme. Kelsier doesn't go quite that far. Kelsier has rules that he won't cross. One of his rules, he only works with good people, is his policy. He says that to Vin. He only works with people he trusts. The whole reason he did this job was because with these men was because these were good men in his estimation, and he wouldn't have entrusted his entire legacy to Vin if he didn't think that she was this exemplar of a person. He thinks highly of people, and he wants to work with people of high caliber. But I think this is also part of his problem if he's going to run something as big as the Ghostbloods is you can contain things to being like, I can trust Ham. I can trust Breeze. I can trust Clubs. I know these are good men. Once you start growing that organization, that becomes a difficult thing, especially once you start putting them on the distance of worlds away with maybe one phone line over to them.
The same thing happens with any small company that grows to be a giant corporation. You start off with this small, tight-knit team that works like a very well-oiled machine. As it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it becomes unruly, and you have to kind of divide it up so that it can't be one person controlling everything anymore.
Because it's too much for them to do every little thing.
And so I think what Kelsier's next storyline, I think he has to relearn a lesson that preservation taught to him, which was what is the weakness of all clever men? They don't know as much as they think they do. Kelsier learned that lesson, and he remembered that lesson when he was able to trick Ruin into using Marsh to try and kill Vin.
Right. Yeah.
But Kelsier has had a flood of knowledge that no one else on his world has ever really had. He's having influence that no one else on his world has really had. And Kelsier, if I may be a little bit mocking, has a little bit of an ego. He's a little high in his own supply, I think, right now. And I think he's going to need to relearn that he does not know as much as he thinks he does.
Right.
And I think Kelsier, he's going to have to learn on, in Secret History, he helped fix what he helped break. Now, was it his fault? No. He was being manipulated by someone bigger, stronger, and smarter than he was. And once he knew, he showed that he was a good person, and he didn't try and justify his mistakes. He tried to learn from them. I think this is going to be a different type of lesson for him, because this time he's learned a lot. He thinks he's pretty smart. I think he's going to have to go through another series of events that teach him you're not as clever as you think you are, and you should not be meddling in some of these things. It won't stop him, and that's why I love him, but he's going to have to learn that lesson, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of going to be the large plot thread of Era 3.
If something blows up in his face and he has to deal
Well,
with the
because,
fallout.
again, the major plot is them going after a rogue Mistborn. Mm-hmm. They're probably going after Kelsier. And they're going to figure out... You know, he's going to have to learn some stuff, too. Because I think he may be the... I'm not going to call him the villain, but he may be the antagonist of that.
Yeah.
Well,
Of that trilogy.
the other thing, and this is... Because he said a rogue Mistborn, and we know there's not Mistborn anymore. He's been messing with the ability to give people powers. People who weren't born with it. And so I'm wondering if the rogue Mistborn that they're going to go after is going to be something of his maybe not him, but a creation of his. That I think what we might be looking at is another potential possibility is a Ghostblood civil war. And so, like, basically, one side's like, no, we should be doing this. Kelsier's like, no, we shouldn't. And then all his works,
anyway.
He's been messing with hemalurgy. He should not have been messing with hemalurgy. He's messing with giving people powers that they weren't supposed to have.
Wait, when is he messing with giving people powers?
Well, so the medallions with the we don't know what the excisors are. We don't know how they work. But he's...
Or do you mean the set? The set is giving people powers that they
That's
should.
with hemalurgy.
Yes,
Yes.
but that's his fault. He's the one who had Spook write that book that they've based their stuff off
Right.
of. And then he's the one who gave the Southern Scadrians the excisors so that they could do all this stuff. He's the one who created the bands of mourning that gave whoever held them the powers of the Lord Ruler. The most broken thing ever is the Lord Ruler. He can compound investiture ad infinitum all he wants. And he somehow made a tool that turns any random schmo into the Lord Ruler. Does that not sound horribly irresponsible to anyone? Like, he's messing with things he should not be messing with. And so...
Oh, that's very true.
And so I wonder if Era 3 is going to be actually a story of them not chasing down Kelsier, but something that Kelsier accidentally created.
That feels more on the nose to me.
And that feels off to me.
It also could be both, couldn't
we'll
it?
just have to see.
I mean, if you're going after a rogue element that Kelsier is responsible for, wouldn't you also kind of go after Kelsier? Because he is the rogue element that is causing all the problems. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit of both. Because that's where you can then put Kelsier into this nice morally gray range, where he can then help solve the problem.
That said, I don't think that he's going to have Kelsier in the end be this big bad or be even a villain necessarily. Mainly, this is on a meta level, because this is Brandon. There are people who have named their children Kelsier.
And he hasn't said it's bad.
Brandon is not going to, make them regret that, I don't think. Because people have asked him if Kaladin, it's like if they would regret naming a kid Kaladin. He's like, no, you'll be good. He hasn't said that about Kelsier, but I feel like it would mess Brandon up inside to realize he's done this to people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but think of how cool the Kelsier kid could be. He'd be the ultimate bad boy.
No.
Like, it's not true. There's no way you're the bad boy at school if you're named Kelsier. You're just the kid they look at with the weird name. Like, what is wrong with you?
Your name's what?
Let's face it, Kelsier at Southtown High is getting beat up. I'm sorry, Kelsier.
No.
By the way, I also imagined, like, when we find out who Kelsier is, the first thing that came to mind was that scene from Breaking Bad, where
say my name.
Say my name.
I haven't seen that, so.
I'm the survivor of Hathsin. I'm the survivor of death. I'm the guy who made sure the Lord Ruler died. Say my name.
You know who I am. I am the Lord of Scar.
You're rusting right.
It was so hard not to say rust in some comments on Instagram.
Yeah. By the way, if you comment on our Instagram, we are avoiding spoilers. So if you mention Kelsea on the post,
there was one poor person who answered my question where I didn't really want you to answer it. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a problem. Like, because this is the thing, we jump all over spoilers. We don't tend to have a problem. This one is so hard to not spoil something.
Yeah, because I was gonna put a picture of Jordan's Funko Pop that's Kelsea, but I was like, wait,
literally,
I can't do that.
Anything topical, anything cute ruins it. At the same time, I think it was Shardcast. I don't remember who said he now wants to go through all of the Stormlight archive and just replace the name Thaidakar with Kelsea and see how it changes the entire sentence to just say that. And I kind of like that. It's also incredibly weird to think that Gavilar's dying. He's got Zeth there, and he's like, "Who sent you? Kalek? Kelsea?" And you're just like, why do all the cognitive shadows want to kill Gavilar? Like, does Vasher want him dead too, just on principle? Like, what's going on?
It's the thing to do. You just need to try it.
Well, I mean, talk about messing with things he doesn't understand.
That's what the cool kids do.
All the cool dead people are doing it.
I mean, and Seth killed him, and he eventually became a cool dead people, so, you know.
Yeah.
Right.
No,
wielding a different kind of invested entity.
Seth is the whole 6 degrees of separation of the Cosmere at this point. Like, he's held Jezreel's honor blade. He's got Vasher's sword that talks. He's buddies with Nail, but also his enemy. He killed Gavilar, defends his brother. I tell you, his LinkedIn page must look really strange.
The 6 degrees of separation.
Oh, goodness.
No, now I want that to be the show title.
Oh, man.
Just because I want someone who is just like, they just put a typo in here. What is wrong with these people? Like, I know S and Z are close, man. But twice, come on. You need to learn some proper typing skills. These people suck at keyboards.
Spell check. Skills.
Oh, boy. Fun times. To our listeners, we do love hearing from you, so keep on sending in your questions. You can ask us about the Cosmere, or you can drop us your ideas for topics you'd like us to discuss during the show. While you're at it, we would love to hear your feedback about how you think we're doing, as well as any interesting theories you might have about what's going on in the Cosmere. You can send all questions and suggestions in a brief, concise email to cosmerestudies@gmail.com, and we could read that as part of the show. If you prefer to send us a physical letter, we do have a P.O. Box at the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, P.O. Box 970063, Orem, Utah 84097. Now, we do have our own personal projects outside of the show. Jordan, why don't you start us off and let us know what you have been up to and where we can find it?
What I've been up to is a crap load of editing for a 1-minute video. That was the intro to the Professional Amoeba League Season 4. I'm really proud of it. I learned to do things that I hadn't done before. But man, it really sucks to say that I spent 15 hours for a 1-minute video. But you definitely should come over to twitch.tv/splicestream at the start of my stream and see that video and then be underwhelmed at how much effort goes into 15 hours of work. But I'm still really happy with it.
Good times. And Amy, what about you?
So my Facebook...
What have you got going on?
Not much, unfortunately. But my Facebook is Coincidence Cosplay and Props. My Twitter is @CoincidenceCosp because my name is too long. Instagram is @coincidence_cosplay, and my website is www.coincidencecosplay.com, and my Etsy is just etsy.com/shop/coincidencecosplay. And I honestly have not done a whole lot. I got some new storage for my my craft room. Wow, my voice is suddenly really raspy. I got a Silhouette Cameo 4, so I'm going to be making cool stuff with that. I just haven't done much yet.
A Silhouette what's a Cameo?
It's like a Cricut cutter, but it's a different brand. So
what cutter?
I can cut fat.
It cuts patterns out of
You can cut shapes and
okay.
patterns and vinyl and whatever else. And so,
vinyl.
like, I cut out a little sticker of Salt Lake Comic Con's logo before they changed it to Fan X for my friend's car, so she could have that as a sticker. I made my Coincidence Cosplay logo and put it on my Cameo, because that's kind of a thing that people do. Is they're like, look, it's my Cameo.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Look, it's my Cameo. Oh, I'm Mario. Anyway, and my husband's website is deckplan.io, and they just did a big new release, and so now you can share decks. These are Magic the Gathering decks, your card decks, with friends and other members on the site, and you can like decks, and you can do importing of your cards and different like decks you've already made, which is a big feature. And so they would really love it if you would look at it. So it's deckplan.io, and that's stuff. Yeah, but I'm going to be finishing up. I finally cut out the fabric for my daughter's Pokemon, the Noibat, so I'm going to try and do that and the Haunter. So yeah, that's sort of what I'm doing.
Cool.
Yes.
And I host another podcast with my friend Dylan. We talk about board games. It's called The Innkeeper's Table, and new episodes come out on Friday mornings. You can get it on pretty much any of the major podcast sites, so go ahead and listen to us there. In our most recent episode, we talked about board games that require some sort of phone app to play. And the next episode that's coming out is going to be about games that you might enjoy if you liked the classic word game Scrabble. I've also got several board game reviews over on www.innkeeperstable.com, and I post about games on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at @innkeeperstable. For those of you who want to support the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but you can't become patrons, we'd love it if you'd just let your friends know about the show. And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast and to like and subscribe over on youtube.com/Cosmere Studies. And, you know, if you want to toss us a good review wherever you listen to us, we would love for you to do that as well.
Please.
Okay, final thoughts on Thaidakar before we close out this episode.
Where is the recruiter, and when do I sign up?
I know nobody would actually. I don't think Brandon would ever do the scene, but I really would love to see a scene where, like, Kelsea walks out and he's like, I am Thaidakar, like unhoods himself or whatever, like the big bad monologue type.
And then fireworks
but I
go
don't think he'd
off,
actually
and then it plays his theme song.
Fireworks, and yeah, it would
then
be
him
cool,
and Hoyt have
I
a
don't-
slam fest at the top of the cage.
If anybody wants to illustrate that, that'd be awesome. But anyway, yeah, I don't
I'm
think it would
curious
happen on
about
screen.
where the name came from, because Brandon has a thing about names following certain linguistic patterns.
Mm-hmm. So we don't know. Does it match anything that we've already seen?
The thing it matches most to me is the Empire in Elantris. Not the Elantrian Empire, but the Dakor.
The Darkor monks.
Like Hrathen?
Yeah, that's
like
the
name we cannot remember.
What is wrong with? Oh dear, this is bad. We host a podcast on this.
Wern is the name of the emperor, but I can't remember for the life of me, I can't remember what it's called.
Got it. Shu-Dareth?
No, that's the religion.
No. We're in the fourth world. Darethai, Aralantia.
Fjorden.
Fjorden. I'm just going through all the
Fjord.
links. Why did they make that the very last link?
It's not Fjord, but I want to think that it's something close.
No, Fjorden.
Fjordell.
Fjorden.
Yeah, no, Fjordell is the nationality.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I see
is,
now sort of where you're
the
going
Fjorden
with
is
that.
the emperor, Fjordell. But yeah. Svordish, is that the...
Oh, that would be the language, wouldn't it?
I think it is. Svordish, I think is...
Yeah.
It's the Vikings, but Catholic and...
With scary bones.
Yes, very scary bones.
No, that's a different country. Anyway, yeah. But yeah, Fjorden. It has that same
feel to it.
feel. Yeah. So, anyway.
Yeah, who knows what he's pulling from and for what purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued because, again, Brandon does pay a lot of attention to linguistic ties and names,
conventions and
naming conventions and stuff. So
maybe that's where the Ghostbloods started or something like that. If he did take it over, maybe. Cause isn't Thaidakar supposed to be a title?
No, Mraize is a title.
That's right. That's what it was.
Oh.
Anyway, In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/innkeeperstable every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. I keep saying iTunes, I mean Apple Podcasts. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. And if you have any questions, feedback, or suggestions for the show, email them to cosmerestudies@gmail.com. For our next episode, we're going to be speculating on what the heck Cultivation, aka Coravellium Avast, is up to. What is her motivation? What is her goal? Where has she been dipping her fingers? Make sure to be there for the live chat so you can add to the discussion in 2 weeks on March 15th. Beware the Ides of March, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern at www.twitch.tv/innkeeperstable. Until then, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember,
There's
There's
always
always
another
another
secret.
secret.